Tonight, we investigate the soaring cost of healthcare and ask why we pay so much.
By law, in many states, providers can charge whatever they wish for services.
See how having insurance can cost you more in out-of-pocket expenses than if you have no coverage, and how cuts to Medicaid could hit families in Tampa Bay.
Everything he needs to live.
Plus, there is still a campaign to take the election away from Donald Trump, and we'll explain how it's playing out right now within the Electoral College. This is Money, Power, and Politics. Well, Marissa, we know that Republican leaders in Congress want to cut back on Medicare and on Medicaid and Obamacare to reel in the growing costs.
But the politicians don't often explain why the costs are so high to begin with, so that's what we'll break down tonight.
And we're going to start with something called the Charge Master. It's what hospitals call the price list for everything that they do, and consumer watchdogs say those prices are much, much higher than they should be.
There's just no basis for this pricing. They're charging whatever they think they can get away with.
Medical providers set prices, and hospital patients don't typically see those prices until they get the bills.
By law, in many states, providers can charge whatever they wish for services.
Ed Frankovich is a good example of that.
It's hard to even explain.
He asked me to investigate his bills 3 years ago. He passed away, but asked us to keep his story alive.
The shot itself, how long does it take her to do?
2 to 3, just a matter of seconds.
At one clinic, an injection related to his chemotherapy cost more than $7,000. On another bill, it cost $9,000. Then he went to a hospital where the price again for that same injection shot up to nearly $19,000.
That's just incredible, just outrageous.
The government picked up much of the tab. Then he discovered he could get that same injection at a pharmacy where his cost dropped to $6,000. Not $6,000, $6,000.
And now it's $6 a month.
You've seen the gross variation in charges for the exact same service within our own community. There's a huge problem in establishing reasonableness.
Now, insurance companies negotiate lower prices for their customer, but those costs are also going up. And that brings us to the next issue that sounds a little crazy, but it's true.
Yeah, because in many cases, when you buy health insurance, you wind up paying more in out-of-pocket expenses than if you had no insurance at all.
Well, this is a flaw in the system that needs to be changed.
Take Bradenton Dr. Robert Kozer.
We'll charge you $45 to $65 if it doesn't, take too much of the doctor's time.
That's $65 for a basic sick visit with no insurance. But if you show your insurance card, the price can more than double.
$141.30 for that same exam.
And if you go to a lab or imaging center, you can pay much more than that.
Oh yeah, it can be up to $1,000 difference if you have insurance.
You would pay $1,000 more
if you have insurance, yes.
Doctors say they have to charge those inflated rates because it's required in their contracts with the insurance companies.
Once a patient walks in that door and lets us know that they have health care coverage and they show us their insurance cards, we're bound now.
And remember, taxpayers are subsidizing these same plans that can hit patients with thousands in premiums plus higher bills when they get sick.
It can be 100%, it can be 1,000% more if they have insurance.
Many who cannot afford private insurance get state-run health care for the poor.
It's what we call Medicaid, and it's the low-income pool. It's also called LIP, but those programs may also be on the chopping block next year, and we want to show you who that could affect the most. This little boy from Hudson got his wish. The day we met Noah Nero, he spent hours riding trains and gazing at miniature trains and eating chocolate ice cream, playing arcade games, and taking his family right back to those trains.
He likes trains a lot.
Oh, no, honey, you don't have to say cheese. Just talk to him.
Noah plays hard, but speaks in soft, faint whispers. Because he spent much of his childhood with tubes down his throat.
He has a lot of vocal cord damage.
Noah's wish was to hang out at Give Kids the World near Disney, a resort for kids with life-threatening conditions.
He's very happy even when he doesn't feel good and stuff.
Noah was born with a bad heart, had open heart surgery as a 3-week-old infant, then again at 6 months, then again as a toddler, then went through a heart transplant at the age of 5, and smiled even on the rough days that broke his mother's heart.
You can see him kind of spacing out and going there, and he's happy inside and outside.
This 7-year-old has also suffered from 7 fractured bones. He struggles with osteoporosis, cerebral palsy, and lung disease, and his mother, Cherish, can't afford private health care.
I have to stay at home and take care of him, so it's not there. We don't have options.
And now she says they're losing the options they had because of changes to state Medicaid.
Going a week and a half without a medication that he needs, I never had that. In his first 7 years, we never had issues, and now I just feel like I'm constantly fighting to get what he needs.
As Florida moved most Medicaid recipients into managed care to save money, Cherish noticed cutbacks for Noah, from denials for medical tests to reductions in his therapy.
It's just been within the last year, I'm seeing things are more difficult. Turn your wheel.
And it may soon get much harder because the federal fund that helps cover Noah's medical costs is drying up. The federal government is phasing out the low-income pool that helps hospitals treat children like Noah.
Just cutbacks terrify me because everything he needs to live.
We want to go to a statewide managed care program.
The rising cost of Medicaid drove the state reforms under Scott that started with former Governor Jeb Bush.
Medicaid is a place that just is like the Cookie Monster for budgets. It eats everything in its way.
If you count federal contributions, Medicaid accounts for around 30% of the state budget. Bush and Scott said they had to reel it in. And after national reforms and years of assessments, the federal government said it had to phase out the hospital funds. The state agreed to shift some money into that fund to keep it going, but we don't know what will happen to the low-income fund or to Medicaid next year.
Every treatment that we do for him, every medication that we give him, he needs to live.
Well, some good news. We did check in with Noah, and he's doing well today, and he's getting the care he needs, but his mom is very worried about possible cuts next year.
Yeah, she is. And on the other hand, we also know that the President-elect Trump, wants to scrap Obamacare and replace it with something different next year, and Americans are very split on that based on the numbers we're seeing.
Yeah, check out this study from the Kaiser Family Foundation. 30% want to expand the Affordable Care Act. That's, of course, also known as Obamacare. 26% want to repeal the entire law. 19% say keep it as is, and 17% say keep it, but scale it back just a bit.
Okay, now coming up, we're going to dig into a plot to still try to take the election away from President-elect Donald Trump.
And we'll have a bizarre gaffe from the man who could be our next director of national intelligence after the break.
I mean, you're not even the actual president of the United States yet. You're president-elect, but you've done more in your first 3 weeks of being elected than the last, the current administration has done in the last 9 months for us.
Well, President-elect Trump took credit for saving 1,000 jobs in Indiana.
And now he's flying all across the nation on a victory lap, which kicked off, of course, in Indianapolis.
Mr. Trump had threatened Carrier with big tariffs if it shipped jobs to Mexico. He also reportedly threatened to pull billions of dollars in federal contracts from Carrier's parent company. His vice president-elect, Governor of Indiana, of course, Mike Pence, negotiated the deal. It saved more than 1,000 jobs and cost the state around $7 million in incentives.
And with that, Bernie Sanders and other progressives ripped the deal by calling it corporate welfare. He said it's just a signal to other companies that you can threaten to offshore jobs in exchange for tax benefits. But Trump said he's doing exactly what he promised on the campaign trail.
Companies are not going to leave the United States anymore without consequences. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. One of the things we're doing to keep them is we're going to be lowering our business tax from 35%, hopefully down to 15%, which would take us from the highest tax nation virtually in the world. This is terrible for business. To one of the lower tax, not the lowest yet, but.
And tonight, reports out of Washington say Trump has picked retired Marine General James Mattis to lead the Department of Defense.
Nicknamed here Mad Dog Mattis after leading the Battle of Fallujah in Iraq and for his blunt and colorful language at times. For example, he once said, quote, "It's fun to shoot some people."
He led the U.S. Central Command back in 2010. He appears to already have some influence with the president-elect. For example, Mr. Trump said he reconsidered his support of waterboarding after Mattis told him it doesn't work. And Trump is back on the trail after he won because he wants to rev up his base. He already won, but now he wants to move his agenda.
Because he knows he did not get a majority on November 8th, so he's trying to fire up his supporters to rally behind him and pressure Congress to follow his lead here.
Trump is also dealing with recounts in the upper Midwest. Today in Milwaukee, election workers pulled large crates of ballots out of storage. Clerks in Wisconsin are starting to recount ballots all across the state. Those clerks have a lot of leeway in terms of how they do this.
You're talking about 48 counties that will recount these ballots by hand. 14 counties will feed them through scanners. 10 others are going to do some of both. Jill Stein, by the way, called for the recount. She's going to get billed for this. Clerks have to finish this recount by December the 12th. And again, we've said based on the history of recounts, this will not flip the results and cost Donald Trump the election. But at the same time, there is a coordinated plan, some of it within the Electoral College itself, to deny Trump his victory.
And because on election night, we didn't actually vote for the candidates, we technically voted for groups of electors who are committed to voting for Clinton or Trump. They'll make it official when they vote in the Electoral College on December 19th.
And some of those electors who are committed to Mr. Trump say that they're under pressure now to break their pledge and not vote for him after all. At least 8 of the Democrats in the Electoral College, I believe from Colorado and Washington State, they're lobbying the Trump electors, and there is a lot of outside pressure as well. And they need to flip 37 Republican electors. That would be just unprecedented and next to impossible. But here is Florida elector Susan Moore on what's going on right now.
Several phone calls that I've gotten, and this is the most intimidation I've received is, people saying that, they want to send me special packages and things like that. And I don't quite know what that means, but I think there's certainly an intimidation factor there. But I really don't think there's anything to be frightened about. I mean, it's really more of a hassle than anything.
Okay, now let's call up one of my absolute favorite moments in the history of American politics with Indiana Senator Dan Coats.
Coats could play a very big role in the next administration because he's being considered for Director of National Intelligence.
That's a big one. You have to be on top of your game, right, for that particular assignment. So let's see how he gets to the bottom of things on Capitol Hill.
I'm not here to get a specific answer from you, but to better understand what is happening and how I think there's probably a trial plan that's going to be put in place, if that rings a bell.
He asks a lot of questions, and you've got to ask a lot of questions to get to the bottom of stuff.
Yeah, you really do. So let's go back to the hearing and check out his technique on grilling the witness.
What is it you're trying to accomplish, and what are some of the consequences of that going to be to the current DFAS system, locations, personnel, et cetera?
There you go. He's peppering the witness with questions here.
Yeah, but what was that note he was reading?
What note?
Somebody just passed him a note. Did you not see that?
No, let's see what it says.
I just got a note saying I'm at the wrong hearing.
Oh, okay.
Fine, I'll go try to find out where I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
Thank you.
What's he up for again?
Director of National Intelligence.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, whose seat did he take in the Senate?
Dan Quayle's, I believe.
I think he did. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe Coats was just wandered into the wrong room and grilled like the wrong guy just to channel Quayle.
We understand the importance of having the bondage between the parent and the child.
An obscene period in our nation's history. No, not our nation's, but in World War II. I mean, we all lived in this century. I didn't live in this century, but in this century's history. We did not have, as a matter of fact, we fought Hitlerism.
I feel right at home in this gymnasium.
Okay.
Well, we could show Quayle clips all night if we could.
Yeah, I wish we could, but we still have a lot of ground to cover here, so here we go. Coming up, how in the world can President Obama blame the media for the Democrats' defeat? We're going to take a look.
Well, just announced today, President Obama will be in Tampa Tuesday for a visit to MacDill Air Force Base.
He is going to meet with active duty military personnel. He'll specifically meet with members of the special operations community and thank them. He'll also go over his strategy for fighting the war on terror, which, of course, President-elect Trump will likely take over and change a great deal sometime next year. President-elect Trump has, of course, had some choice words for the media. More than choice words. He's called them a lot of pretty nasty things. And now in an article by Rolling Stone, President Obama is blaming the media, one network in particular, for the losses the Democrats suffered in the November elections.
Howard Kurtz tells us what the president is saying.
President Obama took a parting swipe at Fox News, lamenting why white working-class voters turned out heavily for Donald Trump. He told a sympathetic publisher, Rolling Stone's Jan Wenner, part of it is Fox News in every bar and restaurant in big chunks of the country, but part of it is also Democrats not working at a grassroots level. The president has the world's biggest bully pulpit, but for 8 years he's portrayed Fox as all but drowning him out.
First of all, I've got one television station that is entirely devoted to attacking my administration. I mean, you know, that's a pretty...
I assume you're talking about Fox.
Well, that's a pretty big megaphone.
That view, promoted by former communications director Anita Dunn, who once told me Fox was a wing of the Republican Party, made no distinction between the network's news and opinion programming. Her boss often invoked Fox in defending Obamacare.
If you talk to somebody who said, well, I don't know, I was watching Fox News and they said this horrible. While good, affordable health care might seem like a fanged threat to the freedom of the American people on Fox News, it turns out it's working pretty well in the real world.
Fox journalists would push back when they were excluded from a media blitz.
These guys, everything is personal. I got to tell you, Bill,
everything.
They are the biggest bunch of crybabies I have dealt with in my 30 years in Washington.
His Justice Department also battled the press, seizing phone records from the AP and Fox's chief Washington correspondent James Rosen in leak investigations. Sometimes Obama uses the channel to argue that right and left prefer sympathetic outlets. But lately, his Fox fixation had faded.
Mr. President, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
It's great to be with you.
It's been a while.
Better late than never.
Sounds a little similar, huh? Well, that was Fox's Howard Kurtz reporting. Coming up, another last for the first family this holiday season after the break. All right, well, the holiday season took full force up in our nation's capital, as you see behind us. The president and the first family lighting the national Christmas tree for the very last time.
This is the very last time President Obama, by the way, reflecting on the election before this in that article, saying that he sort of saw this coming, the loss of Hillary Clinton. So he didn't exactly get his holiday wish. But this is something that you put politics aside and you focus on and take in, as did his family here. Check out our YouTube channel, Craig Patrick's Money, Power, and Politics. Subscribe, and we will see you again tomorrow night. Take care.